All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are live and I think we have a strong connection. So go ahead and put a comment in the chat. Just let me know that you can hear me loud and clear. I have, I think, the fastest internet I can get for where I live right now. And I'd like to thank everybody for your patience. Of course, over the past few weeks, months, and actually the past 12 months, of course, with MCJ Report not being a regular occurrence as it once was. Of course, the reason for that has been due to the heavy campaigning that I've been involved in, and obviously with the formation of Freedom Party of Victoria, it has most definitely been quite the task, if I say so myself, ladies and gentlemen. 75 candidates, that's right, can you believe it? We have 75 candidates spread out all over Victoria, working hard. Everybody has their own teams. We've got our candidates at the polling booths, fighting for your freedom, fighting to give Victoria the alternative that we know is so desperately needed, fighting to push back against the many injustices committed by the Daniel Andrews Labor government. And of course, the reason why we're here is that the opposition has been missing in action. Isn't that right? Who here saw the debate between Matthew Guy and Dan Andrews? Well, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I think the consensus is pretty clear, and that is that Matthew Guy is not showing the type of fighting spirit that we would expect from opposition. And that is the reason, of course, why we are here. We're doing the job of the opposition. So please go ahead and share the broadcast. Share it far and wide, ladies and gentlemen. There's Vicky there saying, who is in Hastings? Well, you've got the Freedom Party of Victoria lower house candidate Felicity Benson doing a tremendous job. You can find her and her volunteers at the polling booths right now. And of course, in the upper house, we have Greg Hansford, who's also doing a great job covering the eastern Victorian region. So go ahead, share it out, share it far and wide, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, MCJ Report. It's great to be live, but it's even better to have a good internet connection. Raise your hand if you've been frustrated over the years when MCJ Report has not been able to maintain a strong internet connection. I know it must be very frustrating. There's Wayne there saying, you voted for me in the federal election. Thank you very much. And who are you voting for in the state election? Who are you voting for? Well, if you haven't made up your mind, I've got a suggestion right here. That's right, Freedom Party of Victoria. By the people, for the people. a political movement founded, made in Victoria. That's right. A Victorian party for Victorian people. We understand what Victorians need, and we understand what we don't want more of, right? And what is it that we don't want more of? Well, just look at the past few years, and of course under this Daniel Andrews Labor government, the only conclusion that we can draw is that we need drastic change, otherwise Victoria may be lost forever in more ways than one. Anyway, go ahead and share the broadcast. I think that you're all going to really enjoy the broadcast today. And the reason for that is that I'll be going through the preferences of a range of micro parties. Now, I'm sure by now many of you have seen the news in relation to Glenn Jury. Now, this is a drum that we have been beating for a really long time, screaming from the rooftops. Of course, under Aiden, we were trying to form the ethical bloc, which would have been an alternative for like-minded parties to actually cooperate in preparation for this election. But unfortunately, there are too many micro parties out there with their snouts in the trough, simply looking to be re-elected at the expense of participating in this corrupt system and at the expense of misleading their voters throughout various regions in Victoria. You see, the way it works is, say you've got the guy Clifford Hayes from the Sustainable Australia Party, okay? He is part of Glenn Jury's network. Now, Cliff really wants to hold on to his seat in Southern Metro. So what Glenn Jury and the parties involved will do is they will stack their preferences in favour of Clifford Hayes in Southern Metro, and Clifford Hayes from Sustainable Australia, he will simply just allow his voter base to be harvested in other regions around Victoria so that Glenn Jury's clients can also be elected. And it's deceptive because voters have a right to vote who they intend on voting for. And of course, under this Glenn Jury model, voters are actually tricked and deceived into voting for parties of which they would never vote for in a million years. And another thing we learned, right, and we already knew this, of course, here at Freedom Party of Victoria, but it was nice to hear Glenn Jury's own admission, is that Glenn's objective is to deliver a crossbench that the Daniel Andrews government can work with. All right, so what do you make of that, ladies and gentlemen? Can the question be posed? Is Glenn Jury a Labor operative? And are the parties that participate in Glenn Jury's network simply aiding and abetting the advancement and the governing objectives of the Daniel Andrews Labor government? Well, there's a lot of questions to be asked, ladies and gentlemen. So my firm recommendation is that nobody should be supporting parties that are participating in Glenn Jury's web of political deception. So we took a big stand on this. As you know, Freedom Party of Victoria, we never entered these arrangements, and we actually made a bold point of allocating all the Glenn Jury parties below the Liberals. That's right. We consider that Glenn Jury is a danger to democracy. We consider that this network actually helps the Daniel Andrews Labor government. So we wanted to set an example by doing what we did. And the other great thing about our group voting tickets is that they do not change from region to region. So no matter where you are in Victoria, when you vote one above the line for Freedom Party of Victoria, you know exactly where your vote is going. It's not as if we have a different preference order, say from Southern Metro to Western Region. No, it's all exactly the same. And we published this, unlike other parties, we published it voluntarily ourselves so that if anyone out there does not like our group voting ticket, of course they are more than welcome to vote below the line. And this is the type of transparency that Freedom Party of Victoria is dedicated to delivering to Victorian politics. Now, we're not delusional and we're not stupid. We knew from the start that doing it this way, doing it honestly, and not participating in this corrupt network would greatly reduce the chances of us winning seats in Parliament. But to us, getting elected to Parliament is not the be-all, end-all. It's not. For us, it's all about how you get there. And the type of change that's required in Victoria, in my very firm opinion, can only be brought about honestly and with integrity. So you need to ask yourself the question, if a certain candidate or party needs to lie, cheat, deceive, steal, exploit as a means of getting elected, then what do you think they will do in Parliament once they get there? Will they all of a sudden become ethical and start serving in the best interests of the people? Or will they simply continue to serve in their own self-interests? I think you know the answer to that question. And I think that every Victorian needs to be made aware of this system. Of course, the group voting system is just riddled with problems and allows the preference whisperer Glenn Jury to make huge amounts of money off the back of exploiting Victorians and I suppose capitalizing off the self-serving nature of political parties and candidates. But given that Victoria is the only state left in the country yet to go through electoral reform, I think we can all strongly agree that it's about time that Victoria got in line with all the other states in Australia, also the federal government, and abolished the group voting ticket system. And of course, that would permanently send Glenn Jury back to his private yacht in Sydney. That's right. So, yeah, despite having a taxpayer-funded role in David Limbrick's office, Glenn Jury actually lives on a private yacht in Sydney and he just comes and goes as he pleases. Do you think that's right? Do you think that the Victorian taxpayer should be footing the bill for this man? Put your thoughts in the comments and go ahead and share the broadcast, guys. Go and share it far and wide. Get the word out there because we're going to get down to business. We're going to go through some nitty-gritties and hopefully you enjoy the show ahead. Alrighty, so what do we have? What do we have first on the agenda? Let's get stuck into it. Alrighty, now. Alright, Health Australia Party. Alrighty, let's get it started, ladies and gentlemen. First on the chopping board, the Health Australia Party. Raise your hand if you've heard of this party. Raise your hand if you think this party cares about your health. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the so-called Health Australia Party cares nothing for your health. The Health Australia Party, I would describe, is nothing more than a vote harvesting operation that feeds directly into the Glenn Jury network. So let's have a look at it here. Glenn Jury involvement, and that guy there, that guy is Andrew Hicks. He actually attended a meeting with us in the early days when we were trying to form the ethical bloc, and he of course decided to go a completely different way, which is why we didn't deal with him. The Health Australia Party just knee-deep in the Glenn Jury web of deception. Anyway, let's take a look at what they've done here. Alrighty, so this is actually pretty funny. This was just a few days ago. Health Australia Party released a statement on preferencing. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to show you how they ordered their preferences, which is completely at odds with this press release. This is just political comedy at its best, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, so official statement, the Health Australia Party position on preferencing. Alright, get ready for a bold and principled statement. The Health Australia Party, HAP, is dismayed by continued revelations of preferencing deals which lack transparency and are designed to game the system. Yet the preferences of Health Australia Party absolutely lack transparency and are designed to game the system. And I'll show you this in a second. These people are snakes. All right, recent media attention concerning the activity of preference whisperer Glenn Jury obliges us to state that we have never paid Jury any monies and will never do so. Now that may be true. All right, that's probably the truth. They probably never have paid Glenn Jury, but that does not mean that they have not entered the Glenn Jury web of voting deception. All right, I'm going to show you what I mean by that. All right, going down here. HAP begun in 2015 and has contested a number of state and federal elections. The party has long advocated for a societal model built upon responsible freedoms and warned against the rise of authoritarianism in the name of public health. Right, so they don't like authoritarianism, they love freedom, yet they also think it's a good idea to give a hand up to people like Fiona Patten, people who hate freedom and people who love authoritarianism. There seems to be a conflict here. All right, now let's go through their group voting tickets, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Alrighty, what do we have first? Health Australia Party, Eastern Victoria region. Alrighty, let me see if I can just make this a little bit bigger. Alright, what do we have here? Alrighty, so their second preference going to shooters, fishers and farmers. Their third going to the Animal Justice Party. Alright, Andy Medic, of course, loving those lockdowns, voting for the state of emergency, voting for the Pandemic Management Amendment Bill, voting for the mandates. So So yeah, Health Australia Party putting them in third position. Also, we can see putting Transport Matters quite high up as well. Rod Barton, somebody who should never be returned to Parliament, there in red. Now, all the parties here in yellow, that indicates parties that are involved in the Glenjury network of micro parties, all right? So as you can see, you got the Glenjury block, Health Australia Party preferencing all of them in the eastern Victoria region. Moving along to the northeastern metropolitan region, we see, again, all the parties in yellow involved in Glenjury's web. Transport Matters high up. We also see Animal Justice there in the mix as well. Moving along to the northern metropolitan region, again, we've got Animal Justice very high up on the list. Rod Barton, Transport Matters. And I also want to make note of this party right here called the New Democrats. All right, so New Democrats, a new party, untested in the market, but founded by a disgruntled former Labor MP. All right, founded by somebody who voted for all the state of emergencies and voted for the vaccine mandates. So Health Australia Party thinking that it's a good idea to give New Democrats a hand up in this election because they care about freedom and measured health. I mean, come on, what an absolute joke. This party is an absolutely fraudulent operation that nobody should take seriously. All right, moving along here to Northern Victoria region. They've got Animal Justice Party in second position because it's all about your health. All right, Transport Matters not too far down. Of course, the New Democrats, they seem to love placing these people very high up in their list. And of course, we've got legalized cannabis. As you can see here, legalized cannabis is actually a front party for Fiona Paddon's Reason Party, all right? So anyone out there that's maybe on board with legalizing marijuana or on board with medicinal cannabis, make no mistake about it, legalized cannabis, they feed their preferences straight into Fiona Paddon. That's right, a vote for legalized cannabis is a vote for Fiona Paddon's Reason Party. All right. Anyway, what else do we have here? This is actually interesting because in Northern Victoria region, we've got Dr. Chris Neal, the cardiologist, running in the upper house, a great doctor who has spoken out. And Health Australia Party has actually put him below a range of left-wing parties that care nothing about health. So look at this, Dr. Chris Neal in green. But Health Australia Party, they think that Animal Justice has a better grasp on health than our very own Dr. Chris Neal. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Anyway, moving along here to the southeastern metropolitan region, that's my region. So all the parties in yellow, once again, involved in Glenjury's web. We see Transport Matters quite high up, Animal Justice, legalised cannabis. And something interesting over the other side, the Health Australia Party thought it would be a good idea to preference the Socialists, Reason, Greens and Labor above the Liberal Party. Remember, who was it that made all of this disastrous legislation that destroyed millions of lives over the past few years? The Labor Party, right? But the Health Australia Party thinks that's just fine. And we can see their second and third. Justice Party and Liberal Democrats, of course, involved in the Glenjury network, thus getting the higher preferences in southeastern metropolitan region. All right, moving along here to the southern metropolitan region. In number 2 position, we've got Sustainable Australia, Clifford Hayes, of course, involved in the Glenjury network, getting that preferential treatment in southern metro. New Democrats just below Transport Matters there. The Animal Justice Party with Andy Medic also placing very high up on the ticket. Western Metropolitan Region, got the number 2 as Labor, DLP. That's right. So DLP, without any shadow of a doubt, heavily involved in the Glenjury network, getting the second preference from Health Australia there in Western Metro number 2, followed by the New Democrats, which Health Australia Party has been giving a big hand up to. Animal Justice Party trailing not far behind. Transport Matters a bit further down the train. And of course, a lone Animal Justice candidate on the other side, outranking the major parties. All right, moving along to the Western Victoria region. Let's see. So Justice Party, Angry Victorians, Shooters Fishers, Liberal Democrats. All right, so again, all these parties in yellow, deeply embedded in the Glenjury web of micro parties. And in red here, of course, we're showing red indicating really bad, right? Transport Matters and Animal Justice. So So those are the preferences there for Health Australia Party. So as you can see, a vote for Health Australia Party could be a vote for literally any man and his dog or her dog. Could be Fiona Patten, could be Rod Barton, could be Sustainable Australia, could be the Labor Party, could be the Socialists. It could be anyone. So this press statement that was released is really bogus and very deceptive, because although I'm sure that it is true that the Health Australia Party is not paying Glenn Jury, what's to say they would not pay him something if they were elected, potentially from their administration fund? And Glenn Jury admitted these types of practices on those leaked Zoom calls. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Put your thoughts in the comments. But my opinion, of course, well, you know what my opinion is. Health Australia Party, nah, no good, cut. All right, let's keep moving along here. All right, I can see that there's a whole bunch of people tuned in. Keep sharing the broadcast. This is good, guys. We're getting the truth out there. All right. This is no spin, by the way. I'm just showing you what they have done. All right. These parties, if they didn't want people like me to make broadcasts like this, they would have just ordered their preferences in a manner that was ethical and responsible. All right. But we haven't seen that, have we? All right. So let me just keep moving along. Who do we have next? All right. Labor DLP. Glenn Jury's involvement. Now, this is an interesting one, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Because I attended a panel a few weeks back, and there were a bunch of minor parties there. There, of course, was a representative from the Democratic Labor Party, Bernie Finn, who you know. And at the time, he was actually asked whether or not DLP was dealing with Glenn Jury, and Bernie gave a bit of a mixed message. So I've got the clip here. I'm going to remind you of the answer Bernie gave when he was asked about this.
Are you going to work with Glenn Jury, and in what capacity can you say that?
Well, I'm not aware of us working with Glenn Jury.
You're not aware, or you're not?
No. I'm not doing comrade. I'm not doing the preferences. But I can give you a guarantee, and the state president over there, Hugh Dolan, has given me a permission to say this, that we will be putting the ALP and the Greens last. Full stop. End of story. Last. That's it. That's it. End of story. That is, there's no two ways. No talking to Glenn Jury. No talking to David Limbrick. No talking to anybody.
All right. So Bernie was pretty clear there. There's no talking to Glenn Jury. There's no talking to anyone. Now I'm going to show you some information that strongly suggests, or dare I say, proves otherwise. Now Glenn Jury, of course, in the tapes, admitted that he was working with DLP. Now, you got to take everything Glenn Jury says with a grain of salt. I prefer to look at the group voting tickets to find out whether or not parties may have been dealing in this type of network. So here's what Glenn Jury said. It just goes for like 2 seconds.
Got it. I'm working with the DLP.
Yeah, so saying that he works with DLP. All right, so what do we have here? Now, DLP, just like the Health Australia Party, thought it would be necessary to release a media statement, so statement from the Democratic Labor Party regarding Glenn Jury. Just got a few highlights here. It said here that one of the advisors, as in advisors that the party had brought on board, was a person named Glenn Jury who was recommended by conservative lobbyists. While we considered Mr. Jury's advice, no money was ever exchanged in the consultation process. And money is often not exchanged in the consultation process. It is a fairly regular practice for parties that get involved in Glenn Jury to only pay if they win. Whether or not that was discussed, I don't know. I wasn't in the room. I'm just throwing it out there. Goes on to say, while we consider Mr. Jury's advice, I just said that, ultimately our state campaign committee auto-determined who to preference. So you mean like a supercomputer, right? They just entered the information into the computer and it spat out a result. Is it kind of like Daniel Andrews' supercomputer? Remember that. It goes on to say, no DLP candidate was ever aware of any preferencing discussions. All right, yeah. None of the candidates knew anything, right? They were completely unaware. Yes, I believe you. All right. It goes on to say, just as they also remain unaware of a number of campaign elements from fundraising through to final candidate selection and more. We trust that our faithful constituents appreciate our efforts and to this end vote below the line in the upper house to ensure the best person wins. Well, unlike the Democratic Labor Party, the Freedom Party of Victoria, we encourage our voters to vote above the line because we have no qualms about our group voting ticket. Of course, if you want to vote below the line, that's up to you. All right, so that's what the DLP had to say. So now let's go and have a bit of a look through their group voting tickets, and you can tell me what you think about it, all right? Because, statements can be deceptive, verbal statements can be deceptive, but the group voting tickets do not lie. That's why you got to love them, because they tell you the truth. Isn't it fantastic? We love the truth, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, what do we have here? Alrighty, first up, Eastern Victoria region. All right, so we're going to mostly look at who the Democratic Labor Party has put in second position. All right, so we see shooters, fishers, farmers. All right, shooters, fishers, farmers, without any shadow of a doubt, knee deep in that good old Glenjury network. We also see Transport Matters, outranking parties such as the United Australia Party and One Nation. We also see Legalise Cannabis, which, remember, is a front party for Fiona Patten, the Victorian Socialists and the Reason Party outranking the Liberal Nationals. So that's in Victoria Eastern region, and that's Labor DLP. All right, moving across here to the Northeastern Metropolitan region, the most damning group voting ticket from Labor DLP, preferencing Rod Barton, the biggest traitor in Victoria, in position 2, thus aiding and abetting his re-election. That's right. Labor DLP thought it would be a good idea to preference Rod Barton second. What do you think about that, folks? I mean, it's right here. The group voting ticket is not lying to you. In Northeastern Metropolitan, a vote for Labor DLP is a vote for Rod Barton. I mean, that's just simply a matter of observation. All right, moving along to Northern Metropolitan region, we see Labor DLP preferencing good old Happy Hap, the Health Australia Party in position number 2, which we know is knee-deep in Jury's network. We also see Transport Matters pretty high up on the chain. And we see Animal Justice Party outranking the Liberal Party. All right, now the devil's in the detail with these group voting tickets. It's not all about who parties preferenced second, third, fourth, fifth. It's about which minor parties are preferenced before the major parties. So the fact that Animal Justice is above the Liberals, that really does tell you something, folks. All right, moving along here to Northern Victoria region. We've got Liberal Democrats in position 2, which makes sense. Of course, Liberal Democrats very much involved in Glenjury's network. I mean, they hired him on taxpayer money, right? So moving down the chain here, we see Transport Matters outranking Liberal. We see an interesting lone Animal Justice candidate outranking a number of National and Liberal candidates. And it seems that this person, Georgie Purcell from Animal Justice, has been given quite favourable treatment from a range of different minor parties. Of course, here we go again. We see the New Democrats, which is placed decently on the Labor DLP ticket in Northern Victoria region. New Democrats, without any shadow of a doubt, very much involved in the Glenjury network. All right, moving along to, what do we have here? Southeastern Metropolitan and Liberal Democrats in position 2. No surprise, move down the chain here. And you've got Transport Matters not too far away. Now you can see in position 3 and 4, you've got Family First and Freedom Party of Victoria. That's right. So in a way, DLP kind of, took advantage of the ethical bloc whilst also dealing with a big side serving of Glenjury. So not in the spirit of the ethical bloc. Moving along here, Southern Metropolitan region, and you're going to start seeing patterns. Position number 2, Sustainable Australia. Of course, Clifford Hayes involved in that Glenjury network, getting some very good treatment there in Southern Metropolitan. Let's see, Western Metropolitan. They've got an independent there in position 2. I don't know much about that independent. But moving down the chain here, of course, we see a range of other parties involved in Glenjury's network. We've got the Angry Victorians Party, which we know for sure has been dealing in Glenjury's network. Don't get me wrong, they did a fantastic job exposing Glenjury, but they've done some very questionable preference swaps themselves. I'm going to go through that with you in a bit. Health Australia, New Democrats, interesting rogue One Nation candidate there. Transport Matters outranking United Australia Party and another One Nation candidate. Western Victoria region, they got the Justice Party, Stuart Grimley there in their second preference. Of course, the Justice Party being also involved in that Glenjury network. And here we see Transport Matters actually outranking the Liberal Democrats. So there you go. That's the group voting tickets there from Labor DLP. You can put in the comments what you think about it. Share with your friends and family, because the truth is that a vote for Labor DLP in Northeastern Metropolitan is a vote for Rod Barton. And we see some interesting group voting tickets whereby you've got the Victorian Socialists outranking the Liberal Party, legalise cannabis, which is a front for Fiona Patten, and of course the Reason Party outranking the Liberal Nationals. I mean, it's an absolute dog's breakfast, ladies and gentlemen, so voter beware. Alrighty, moving along here. Alright, we've got the Angry Victorians Party. We're going to run through their preferences as well, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, nobody gets a free pass here on the MCJ report. Now, of course, the Angry Victorians Party, hats off to them. They did a phenomenal job exposing Glenn Jury, his deception. It could not have been played better. In fact, nobody has done this to Glenn Jury before, and it's actually a masterpiece. But nonetheless, we need to be fair, right? And we need to look at everybody's group voting tickets. So let me get started, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, starting off with the Eastern Victorian region. They did something good, right? They put One Nation in position 2, and the candidate out there in Eastern region is Warren Pickering. I really like Warren. He's a great guy. I'd really love to see him get in. I think he'd do a phenomenal job. All right, so that's good in number 2. But in position number 3, of course, we see the New Democrats headed up by the former Labor MP. So I don't think this is a good person to have in position 3. Now, let's move across to Northeastern Metropolitan. All right, very nice. They put Freedom Party Victoria in position 2, but in position 3, the Angry Victorians placed Rod Barton from Transport Matters, which is disappointing. Moving to Northern Victoria region, Angry Victorians 1, One Nation in position 2, Justice Party 3. Then again, we see the New Democrats, directly followed by Animal Justice Party, and then Liberal Democrats, Freedom Party of Victoria underneath. All right, so that's Chris Neal. That's Dr. Chris Neal there. Family First, Legalise Cannabis, Health Australia, and the list goes on and on like that. Let's see, Southeastern Metropolitan Region. They've got Darren Hinch's Justice Party in position 2, Legalise Cannabis, the Fiona Patten Front in position 3. Let's see, Southern Metropolitan, they've got Sustainable Australia in position 2. All right, now as you see from the other group voting tickets, a lot of parties are giving Sustainable Australia their number 2 preference in Southern Metropolitan, and that is, of course, because Clifford Hayes with Sustainable Australia is involved in that Glenn Jury network and will be relying on a whole bunch of 2s and 3s and 4s for his re-election. Western Metropolitan Region, their number 2 going to Health Australia Party. All right, Health Australia Party again involved in that Glenn Jury network, followed by the New Democrats, Liberal Democrats, One Nation, Shooters, Fishers, Freedom, Family First, Legalise Cannabis, Companions, Pets, Animals Justice, United Australia, Transport Matters. Down the list it goes. So as you can see, there's no real ordering down the chain in terms of, say, shared outlooks or political objectives and things like that. Moving along to Western Victoria region, we got number 2 Justice Party, followed by Legalise Cannabis. And here in Northern Metropolitan region, we see Angry Victorians giving their number 2 to Legalise Cannabis, their 3 to Reason Party, their 4 to Health Australia Party, and their 5 to Animal Justice Party. So in Northern Metropolitan region, a vote for Angry Victorians is a vote that is going straight down through Legalise, Reason, and Animal Justice and Health, which is definitely not a good situation, and you would not want to be voting one above the line in Northern Metropolitan Region. If you like the candidate, who I see here is Nikki Freeman, you got to vote below the line, because otherwise you're just handing your vote over to the enemy. So I hope that provided a bit of context for you in relation to those particular group voting tickets. All right, let's see here. Are we connected loud and clear, ladies and gentlemen? Keep sharing the broadcast, get the word out there. If there's one thing you can count on from your buddy Morgan, you know I'm just going to go in there, tell the truth. If we have to slice and dice a little bit, that's simply what we do. I'm not here to make friends with politicians. I'm here to serve the public, and serve I will. Win or lose, serve I will. Alrighty, moving along here. Alright, now this is an interesting one. Restore democracy, sack Dan Andrews. Who here has heard of this party, ladies and gentlemen? Raise your hand if you have heard of the Restore Democracy, Sack Dan Andrews Party. Now, this actually was pretty strange from the get-go. It was brought to my attention when this party was registered, and there were lots of alarm bells that sounded. First of all, Restore Democracy sounds a lot like Reignite Democracy. Sack Dan Andrews is, of course, the slogan that we all have used over the past few years in response to the inept governance of the Daniel Andrews Labor government. So my initial response to this party was that it had been established to try and slash the vote of the Freedom Party in order to shovel votes back to Daniel Andrews. And that's exactly what Glenn Jury claimed it was in those leaked tapes. Now, the spokesman for the Restore Democracy, Sack Dan Andrews Party, he has denied working with Glenn Jury or paying Glenn Jury or being involved in this type of system. So what we have to look at is, of course, the group voting tickets, and the group voting tickets will, of course, tell us the truth about the Restore Democracy, Sack Dan Andrews Party. And for the record, you should not vote for this party. Absolutely not. Before I show you the group voting tickets, I'll let you know that voting for this party is like playing bingo. You've got no idea where your vote's going to go. Might go to the left, might go to the right, might go straight down the middle, but it's not going to go where you think it might go if you were voting simply based on what you thought the party stood for, based on their name. All right, so let's take a bit of a look, shall we, ladies and gentlemen, at the group voting tickets. All right, what do we have here? Glenn Jury reveals the Sack Dan Andrews Party is one of mine in a leaked video. That's what he said, and of course the party denied it. But you know what? Stuff all that. What are they saying? What are they saying about the... I mean, what are we saying? Let's look at the group voting tickets. That's what I meant to say. All right. Starting off with Eastern Victoria. In number 2 position, shooters, fishers, farmers. All right, a good paid-up client of Glenn Jury without a shadow of a doubt. Followed by Health Australia Party. And I was really surprised, actually, that the Sack Dan Andrews Party put Freedom Party so high up. I was actually shocked when I opened the group voting tickets, and I said, well, how come they're putting us so high up? I thought they would have shoved us way further down. All right. But as you see, they're giving their number 2 there to a long-time client of Glenn Jury. Alrighty. Northeastern Metropolitan giving their second to the Angry Victorians Party, and a sole Liberal candidate there in position 3, followed by a bunch of parties that are involved in Glenn Jury's network, such as Sustainable, Transport Matters, Health, Liberal Democrats, and Shooters, Fishers, and Farmers. All right, moving along to the Northern Metropolitan region. Their number 2 has gone to the Labor DLP, the Democratic Labor Party, to Adam Somyurek. That's right, the disgraced former Labor MP involved in the branch stacking. I know they all do it, but you got to ask yourself the question, if Adam Somyurek wasn't booted out of the Labor Party, would he have actually stood up for us when it came time to voting on the Pandemic Management Amendment Bill? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Alrighty, here's the real kicker. Northern Victoria region, the Sack Dan Andrews Restore Democracy Party putting the Animal Justice Party in position 2. Alright, giving a hand up there to the Animal Justice Party. And on their split ticket, they give their number 2 to Liberal Democrats, of course another Glenn Jury party, and their number 3 to Animal Justice Party. So you'll see these split tickets a bit. Ticket number 1, it goes Animal Justice, Lib Dems. Ticket number 2, it goes Lib Dems, Animal Justice, and Health just below. All right, moving across to the Southeastern Metropolitan region. Their second going to the Justice Party, Hinch, Glenn Jury, like all these parties at the top, they're all involved in Glenn Jury. Then, of course, going to Liberal Democrats, and their other ticket, it's just simply switched the other way around. So Liberal Democrats, Justice, and I was very surprised to see myself up there in position 4. So that tells me that the people behind this party, you know, they probably controlled their group voting ticket more than what Glenn Jury alluded to. But you can see they're definitely giving their first top preferences to parties that are involved in the Glenn Jury network. And we also look to the other side of the group voting ticket, and we see that 4 Labor candidates have been inserted below the first 2 Liberal candidates. And on their other ticket, it goes Liberal, Labor, 4 Liberals, followed by Labor. So it's also important to point that out. All right, in Southern Metropolitan Region, we see once again let's see. Sorry, I've lost my place. Let me just find where I was. Sorry, give me a second. These tickets. All right, yeah. So we see, of course, Sustainable Australia getting the number 2. All right, just popping up over and over again. In Western Metropolitan Region, no surprises that the Sackdan Andrews Party has given their number 2 to Bernie Finn from Labor DLP. And there's also something interesting going on in Western Metropolitan, which is that the Sackdan Andrews Party has preferenced Labor above Liberals. Okay, so you'd think that the Sackdan Andrews Party, if they truly don't like Dan Andrews, they truly don't like Labor, why would they preference Labor above Liberals? Is it possibly in relation to Glenn Jury's statement in regards to delivering a crossbench that the Daniel Andrews Labor government can work with? Moving across to the Western Victoria region, we see the Justice Party in position 2, which is, of course, also involved in that Glenn Jury model, and a strange sort of mishmash of Liberal Labor on the other side. All right, so there you go. That's the group voting tickets right there, ladies and gentlemen, for the Sackdan Andrews Party. You can see on various occasions they've actually preferenced Labor above Liberal. So you don't really know where your vote is going, and there's no reason to vote for this party. They haven't been on the ground. They don't have a presence, and clearly they're just funneling their preferences wherever they thought it would be advantageous in relation to what preferences they could get back in return. Most damning is Northern Victoria region preferencing Animal Justice Party in second position and placing Labor above Liberal. All right, so that's the Sackdan Andrews Party, which, again, you should not vote for this party. Alrighty, let's see. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Is this helpful? I hope that I can sort of explain how it all works. And I think you're starting to see the patterns, right? You can see this guy, Clifford Hayes. Everyone's just giving him their second preference in Southern Metropolitan. So he'll go and get his 1.5%. But because of all these preferences trickling in, he'll probably get his 16.7%, get a quota, go back into Parliament, and screw everyone else, right? These people, right, these people that take advantage of this corrupt system, they are nothing more than a bunch of pigs with their snout in the trough. That's right. Feeding off the public, not representing the public. They're not leaders. They could never start a political party. They could never speak to a captive audience. You know what I mean? It's just an absolute disgrace. It's disgusting. All right, let's keep moving along. All right. Who here knows about this party? Raise your hands if you've heard of these guys. Shooters, fishers, and farmers. What's Glenn Jury's involvement with these guys? Alrighty, so let me just open up and... Actually, you know what? If you just give me about 60 seconds, I'd like to go and get a glass of water. Thank you very much. I've been doing a lot of talking. Bear with me. I'll be back. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. That was very, very much appreciated. Now, I see somebody asking what site am I on. I like this site because unlike the other sites like Turning Point Australia, which is very biased, this is just the raw data. And all you want is the raw data so you can just read it and make up your own mind. So what I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to post it in the chat so you can actually go and read it for yourself, so you've got a copy of it. ABC group voting tickets, Anthony Green. Just give me a second. I'm just pulling up the exact URL. So I can go ahead and... Okay. Putting it in the chat right now. All right, put it in the chat. So please just copy it, save it somewhere. This is just the raw data. And here's the great thing. This is why I'm so happy. You can go to any region in Victoria and guess what? The group voting ticket for Freedom Party of Victoria, it's exactly the same. So we haven't done these deals where, hey, I'll help you out in Western region if you help me out in Eastern region, or I'll sacrifice my members and volunteers in Northern if you help me in Southern. Nah. I think, honestly, what disgusts me the most about this preferences for cash system is that you've got political parties, right, that are willing to throw their members, voters, and volunteers and candidates under the bus so that certain candidates can save their own skin. It's disgusting. I mean, these parties that are helping Rod Barton to get elected, all right, parties including but not limited to Labor DLP, Shooters, Fishers, Farmers, Sustainable Australia, the Liberal Democrats, and more. I don't understand how they can justify it. How is it okay to promote the ideals of a party, convince the public to vote for you, only for that vote to be transferred to somebody that those supporting said party would never actually support in the first place? It's just all types of wrong. It's deception, it's exploitation, and it is abusing a sacred relationship that is built on trust. As far as I'm concerned, people join political parties and vote for political parties because they trust what the party is doing. And that is a privilege. And that is a responsibility and a commitment and an obligation that should never be broken, never be compromised. Never in a million years could I even begin to imagine convincing someone to vote for Freedom Party only for that vote to be shoveled off to somebody like Rod Barton or Fiona Patten. I would never do it. To me, it's also a matter of self-respect. If you respect yourself, you respect your party, you respect what you stand for, then you stand behind your values and you don't break them for anyone. You don't break your values for anyone or for anything, even a seat in Parliament. And tell you what, if getting elected to Parliament requires one to play these games of deception, then let it be known, I'll be definitely not wanting to be elected to Parliament if that is indeed what's required. But I tell you what is required, electoral reform, 100%, hands down. Anyway, that's my little rant. If that resonates with you, then go ahead, share the broadcast and tell your friends and family to vote one for Freedom Party of Victoria. Anyway, I'm just going to get back to the show. All right, so where were we? Alrighty. Shooters, Fishers and Farmers. Let's take a look at their group voting tickets. Eastern Victoria region giving their number 2 to the Health Australia Party. Health Australia, of course, embedded in Glenjury's network. Also important to point out, they've given legalised cannabis and Reason Party preferential treatment over the Liberal Nationals. Moving to Northern Metropolitan Region, they've given their number 2 to Adam Somyurak from Labor DLP. Of course, we see Labor DLP getting lots of number 2s in Northern Metropolitan. It's also important to point out that in this region, Shooters, Fishers and Farmers have preferenced legalised cannabis, Reason and Labor above the Liberal Party. All right, so maybe this once again is in reference to Glenjury's remarks regarding delivering a favourable crossbench to the Daniel Andrews Labor government. Moving across here to Northern Region, they've got Liberal Democrats in position 2, no surprises there. Also legalised cannabis and Reason Party outranking the Liberals and Nationals. Moving across to Southeastern Metropolitan, Liberal Democrats in position 2, no surprises. Again, legalised and Reason outranking the Liberals. Southern Metropolitan Region, surprise, surprise, Sustainable Australia in position 2. And Clifford Hayes probably feeling very happy right now in regards to all the number 2s he has received. Also legalise and reason above the Liberal Party. Western Metropolitan Region, number 2 going to Labor DLP to Bernie Finn. Bernie Finn collecting a lot of number 2s from these Glenjury associated parties. That's right. So Bernie Finn probably feeling rather good about his chances of re-election after all these parties shoveling off their preferences his way. Alrighty, Western Victoria Region, number 2 going to the Justice Party. And this is a funny one because in addition to legalise and reason, shooters, fishers and farmers have actually positioned the Victorian Socialists above the Liberal Nationals. Northeastern Metropolitan Region, no surprises here. Shooters, fishers and farmers committing the ultimate act of betrayal and preferencing Rod Barton from Transport Matters in second position. That's right. Rod Barton, that screwed over 6.5 million Victorians, somehow deserves the second preference from shooters, fishers and farmers. Also, we see something interesting. Reason, legalise and the Labor Party outranking the Liberal Party. Alrighty, so there you go. Shooters, fishers and farmers. Vote for them, and for all you know, you could be voting for Rod Barton from Transport Matters, or who knows, maybe even the Labor Party. Alright, who's next? Alright, now this is a pretty easy one. So some people are wondering, what did Clive Palmer do? So Clive Palmer did not entertain the deals with Glenjury, I can tell you that. He went for a much more simple approach, which was largely based on working with the Liberal Party. No surprises there. Clive never gave us the impression that he would not be doing this, so we all expected this type of deal to take place between the United Australia Party and the Liberals. So I'm just going to breeze through the group voting tickets and show you what they've done, how they've worked it, and I think probably the United Australia Party is well positioned to get maybe one or two of their upper house candidates elected based on the overflow from the Liberals that you can expect to see flow into the United Australia Party, in addition to the seconds, thirds and fourths that UAP is picking up from other smaller parties. So let's take a look into this, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, Eastern Victoria Region, UAP has put One Nation in position 2, all right, which is good because I really want Warren Pickering to get elected. He's a great guy. And below Warren, they've put the Liberal Nationals, all right, and then you've got Freedom, Health Australia, which is a very questionable choice, Liberal Democrats, Family First, DLP, and down the chain it goes. Okay, moving across to Northeastern Metropolitan, UAP has put Liberals in second position. Northern Metropolitan Region, UAP has put Liberals in second position. Northern Victoria Region, Liberal Nationals again in second position. Southeastern Metropolitan Region, UAP has put Liberals in second position. Southern Metro, Liberals again in second position. Western Metropolitan Region, bit different. So they've gone One Nation, Family First, Freedom Party of Victoria, and then the Liberal Party. So I like the order of this. This is good. It would have been great if the other group voting tickets looked like this, but such is life. And when we go to Western Victoria, we see, again, the United Australia Party have put the Liberal Nationals in second position. So there's really not all that much to it. So Clive did not want to deal with Glenjury. He went straight to the Liberals, as he always does. He never made any remarks that he would not be doing these types of deals. I was expecting this type of thing to emerge. So it's really just as simple as that. Of course, we would have liked if there could have been a bit more, say, cooperation, a bit more, say, the small, real conservative parties to go above the Liberals at that stage, but such is life. And should the UAP candidates get elected, I certainly wish them the best of luck, and shall they do a very good job in Parliament. All right, moving along here. And that's it. That's actually it. So there you go. So those are the parties that I wanted to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that answers any questions. Let me see. I can see there's 160 of you watching right now. And that's about it, guys. So what can I say? Vote one for Freedom Party of Victoria. Oh, and guess what? There's good news. All of our how to vote cards are uploaded on our website. So go to freedomparty.net.au Download your How to Vote card. Send it to your friends. Send it to your family. Obviously, we're doing our best to have volunteers on every polling booth, but there are going to be some polling booths where you're not going to see Freedom Party people, in which case just look for Freedom Party on the ballot paper. We're a new party. We're doing our best. We've got 75 candidates. We've done so with very little resources, very little funding. So, we're here for the long haul, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. Win, lose, draw, win seats, don't win seats. We are here because we understand that Australia needs drastic change. That change does not necessarily happen overnight, but we simply charge straight towards the enemy. And I need you to join us on this mission. And by the way, guess what? My Facebook just clocked over 100,000 followers. So I want to thank everybody for joining me on this wild journey. And guess what? The journey is just getting started. There's a lot of bad people out there that need to be sliced and diced. And let's just get after it, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you to Patricia for saying that I'm speaking the truth. They can threaten me. Yeah, I've been threatened. I've been threatened throughout this campaign. I've had people threaten to bash me. People threaten to destroy me and Aiden. And guess what? We're making a few enemies out there. You think shooters, fishers, and farmers like that I'm showing their group voting ticket? They don't like it. They don't like it. One of their representatives told Aiden to go F himself the other day, and they get very upset when you do this stuff. But I couldn't care. I didn't get involved in this to become friends with politicians. I became involved to serve the people, and this is simply what I feel I'm meant to be doing. It's been a long time coming, nearly 10 years in the making. And I didn't come this far to sell out. I never will. So go ahead and share the broadcast. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Freedom Party of Victoria. We are in this for the long haul, ladies and gentlemen. Be happy. Smile. Don't forget to smile. And just know that the best is yet to come. All right. God bless you all. And have a great evening. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.